Hi, I'm Danny Agosta with Steel Rubber Products. You know, one of the most common questions we get about rubber seals around an old vintage car is about the vent windows. Because they're complicated, they got a lot of moving parts. The vent window is actually in a frame. So we're going to show you today how to replace all that rubber, how to make it look like new, perform like new, and show you how to do it the right way. The first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you've got rubber to replace here. So as you can see, we've got our original and our reproduction. Check them out visually, make sure that they're going to work right. They look exactly the same. So we've done that. So what we can do is go ahead and remove this rubber. In most cases, this stuff is going to be pretty brittle, and you can just pull it straight out. It's only held in with tension. And there's a joint right here, a little pivot place. Typically, you're able to just break it off and go around it. You may need to cut it out, but regardless, you just need to get it out from around that pivot hole. Just like that. So the next step is removing this bolt, removing this spring assembly, taking off this plate so you can remove your window, which we're going to show you how to do. Most of these vent windows are the same. What holds the window into the frame is this spring assembly. This is what makes the tension whenever you're trying to open it. And the spring assembly is held on with a nut, and the nut is held in place with this little wing washer. So we're going to open this up on both sides. And then remove that nut. I generally like to take a picture of the order. So the next step to get this glass out is we're going to remove this bracket. This glass is held in by a pivot point that's up in the frame, and then the rod that's coming down here. So to remove this, there's two rivets that we're just going to drill out. And then we can remove this plate and these washers. This enables the window to slide down and out of that upper pivot place. Just like that. So most vent windows are designed with two pieces. You've got your main seal that goes around the frame that seals up against the glass whenever it closes. And then you also have your division post seal that runs right along this vertical edge. You don't need to remove it to remove your glass, but we're going to remove it now so we can replace it with some new rubber. There are several brass tabs, or steel tabs rather, that run through here. So we're going to need to remove this channel so we can get to those tabs. That's why whenever we do a vent window, that's when we're also going to do our channel, our window felts. You're already into your door. Now's the time to do that. So now that we have this removed, we can see where those tabs are. We can just flip these tabs over straight. And this will let us remove that division post. You can see where all this is rusted throughout the years, where there's just been water getting back there. It's corroding the rubber, it's falling off. This is why instead of steel we use brass. It's non-corrosive. If there's water going to get to these parts, which it's on the exterior of the car, it's probably inevitable, that brass will not corrode, will not let go of the rubber, so it'll last a lot longer. We've got all of our rubber out now. So now what we want to do before we install that new rubber is make sure to go back and clean all this corrosion, all this residue and old adhesive that's in there, so we don't trap that under our new rubber. We got some 3M adhesive remover, and this works great on adhesive as well as just any residue or grime in general. Spray a little bit and let it sit for just a moment. Let it do its thing, and then we take our little nylon tool here. It's not going to gouge metal, but it's got a nice scraping edge. Just come through and clean up some of this gunk. In these tight spaces, what I like to do is take the scraper tool and a rag and just try to get all the nooks and crannies that we can. So now that we are happy with how clean the track is, now we can install the rubber. Again, we're going to use our nylon tool instead of that scraping edge. We're going to use our tucking edge. And essentially what we're going to do is line up where the pivot holes go on both the top and the bottom, and then fill in the rubber from there. So that way we know those holes are going to line up. All right, we've got our rubber installed into the frame, got everything seated where it needs to go, and the last part is installing our division post. This piece is real simple. It's got the tabs just like the original did. They go through the exact same holes, and we're going to use a pair of pliers to bend the tabs over on this back side, and if you want, you can make sure they go flat with a pin punch and a hammer. And I'm pulling into the frame as I bend it over just to make sure everything is seated tightly. And you can come back and flatten these. We've got our glass back in our vent window frame. Essentially, this goes in just the way it came out. You put the pin through the bottom hole, rotate it around, and make sure that top pivot point goes into its anchor spot. Next, we're going to put the washers and the bracket back on the bottom of the frame. So as I told you earlier, this is where taking a picture is really important. You can see the order of which way this has to go back on. So now that we've kind of got this fitted, we can come back and set our rivets and we'll be good to go. We've got our rivets set into our bracket. We're just using the blind rivets or pop rivets, and they just set right down in the holes and put that bracket right back into the same place it came from. And those actually look pretty nice. If you have a little extra there, we've got some shorter rivets. If you have a longer rivet, make sure you want to come down and grind those to where you don't have any sharp metal hanging off, at least deburr it. And now that we've got that set, we can finish setting our bolt assembly here. The last step that we need to do before we can put it back in the car is to replace the run channel that the door glass slides in. So we are going to replace it with originally what just came out. You can see this piece is almost rusted through. I think someone might have messed with this window before. We just had felt laying down there. So we're going to replace it with the correct rigid run channel that runs down here. So these are actually just pressure fit. You can see it just snaps right into place. The lower one goes just below that. And if you wanted to, you could set this with a rivet or a screw or something, but ours feels like it's really going to stay right where it is just with the pressure. And with that, this is ready to go back into the car. So as you can see, there's not a whole lot that goes into this. It's fairly simple. You can do it in an afternoon to do both windows. It really goes a long way for the looks of the car and the enjoyability of the ride, so you don't get that wind whistling. And we have these vent window seals for all types of cars. So go to our website at steelrubber.com to see what we got for you. And if you like this video, hit like, hit the subscribe button so you can get more how-to videos.